jolts you awake, what keeps you up? Pay attention if you can. Hello and welcome to the Common Archetypes, where we discover our power by discovering ourselves. My name is Paola and we're going to begin. So we've already done with the introduction to the common archetypes. So now this video is about which archetype tends to pair well with which one romantically. And by romantically, I am not talking casual. I am talking relationship. Sometimes marriage, but sometimes if you're not into that, it can be a long-term relationship. The archetypes of the day is going to be the innocent and the charmer. You can click on the eye somewhere right here to have a more in-depth explanation of how this archetype shows up. And we're going to start with the innocent. Ladies first. Alright, so the archetypes that tend to pair well with the archetype of the innocent, and again, quick refresher, innocent, feminine pole of this archetype of transformation, charmer, masculine pole of this archetype of transformation. They can be childish or they can be childlike. Childish when they're immature, childlike when they are mature. This video is only for the mature innocent and charmer. If you're childish, go get therapy, go learn how to be an adult. This is not for you. Okay, you are not the target audience. I'm sorry for being harsh, but I just feel like the immature innocent and charmer just make it difficult for everyone. So in the mature state, they're curious, adventurous, and transformed. So innocent, ladies first. The first archetype that tends to pair well with the innocent archetype is the Hermit. This is a union of opposite attracts. The innocent is very open, very vivacious, very like she's ready to take on life. And the Hermit is a bit more reserved, more to himself. Think cool, calm, and collected. That is who the Hermit is, whereas the innocent is more, she's all over the place. And at first they appear like opposites, but together they really tend to balance each other out. She brings him more out of his shell and he's able to explore his inner child more with her. She's the embodiment of transformation, so she does help him transform. And at the same point, he does not judge her transformations. He will accept all facets of the innocent and every single transformation the innocent goes through. Because again, he's the representation of acceptance and detachment. So he has no problem with you being this girl today, this other girl tomorrow, this random other girl. He will have no problem accepting all different facets of your life. Your tantrums, even, he will probably accept that. As well as the times where you're just happy and joyful. And the Hermit is very cool, chill, calm, collected. However, there is something I need to state about this union because they're really, you work well together. But there is something that I need to know, especially on the person who has the innocent archetype. This archetype also tends to be sometimes, not always, but sometimes it can exhibit traits of codependency. They like doing stuff with their partner. They like to be involved with their partner. They like their partner to do a plethora of activities with them, which it's not bad. That's just who you are. But if you do tend to pair with someone who has Hermit archetype, and again, if you want a refresher, just click on the eye right here. He's the outcast, okay? He's a loner. And they tend to like their space. So one thing to note that I would just say for someone who has innocent archetype, if you like the cool, calm, collected, stoic guy, you need to give him his space when he needs his space. This might be a point of contention where you feel like you're not doing a lot of stuff with your partner because he's the opposite of impulsive. He's very much not impulsive. And you might want to do this, do that, but if you don't give him his space, like a hermit, he's going to run away. He's going to pull back and he's going to tap into that detachment aspect of that archetype. So just something to note is Yes, you want to spend time with your partner. Yes, you want to do this, do that, and he is going to accept every single facet of your life, all of your mood swings, all different emotions you present. He's very non-judgmental, but the requirement is for you to give him his space when he needs his space. And another thing that I have seen is because the Hermit and Mystic archetype, the outcasts and the loners, and they tend to have like a workshop where that is their space. Okay, they're very much in tune with sacred space. Sometimes this can present itself in a workshop. This can be a man cave or a woman cave, whatever you want to call it. And when they're in their workshop, it is like a sanctuary for them. And they have their stuff organized in a particular way. An easy example for this is just like a man who is involved in like 3D printing or any other creative outlets, because this is actually a very creative archetype, but they're just very quiet, reserved into themselves. So they like to explore their creativity alone. It's how they function. Doesn't mean they don't like you. They just like to do that by themselves. So they do tend to set up a space for themselves in the household, or maybe they have their own shop that is their space. You, as the innocent partner who likes to do stuff with her partner, who likes to be involved with their partners, who wants to do activities with their partner, you need to understand that that is their space. Please do not disturb that, okay? That is their space. I have seen people completely mess up a relationship with someone who is more quiet and reserved because they wanted their partner to spend time with them. And they actually had like this really great idea of, let me go into my partner's workspace, arrange it so that maybe he will have an easier time to do whatever he's doing. He does it faster, and then we can go out and, go on a date or go do something, whatever, normal stuff. And then when the partner came in, they did not like the fact that they messed up their space, because for them, it is a secret space and they've arranged it in a way they want it to be arranged. So the only thing I would say is vocalize that to your partner. When you want me time, tell them, I want me time at 4 o'clock. Don't be afraid to say that. The archetype of the Hermit is going to be receptive to you being direct than to you hinting stuff. Don't hint stuff to him. Tell him exactly what you want, when you want it, so he can go into his workspace or his man cave. And when I say man cave, I'm not talking about going down the basement playing video games. That's actually charmer archetype. Hermit men, they are very creative and they will be working. That's why I gave that example of 3D printing, because I know some men who are like into 3D printing. They have everything organized. You do not touch the workspace. Very much giving the Hermit. But if he's a gamer, that's a charmer. Pull him off the gaming chair and go about it. But if you're dealing with someone who actually has a workspace or a man cave where they do their own thing, don't try to disturb that. But you also need that quality time with your partner. Again, that's one of your love language. So tell your partner at 2 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, I want you here so we can do da-da-da-da-da. And he will be receptive to that. He will understand that. Again, he has that acceptance. But he can also be detached if he feels like you're intruding in his space. And you don't want that. So that's it. So tell your partner exactly what you need. And another thing, just get a hobby. Okay? Getting a hobby helps. So that when he's doing his thing, you're doing your thing. After you're done doing it, your own thing, you can come together and go about your day. But getting a hobby helps. And it's okay. You don't have to be locked to your partner at the hip. And actually, people who embody Hermit archetype don't like it when their partner is locked to them at the hip. Okay, so that is one of your pairings. Your second pairing is the Knight. Again, click on the eye for more in-depth explanation of how this archetype shows up. But the Knight, he's a protector of nation, protector of families, protector of household. And this is the quintessential prince and damsel in distress relationship, okay? And it might sound silly, but if you have the innocent archetype, because you are a transformative archetype. You can really like lay it on thick, I'm a princess, or you can change into something else. Don't be afraid to tap into that princess role or that damsel in distress so that your partner can be the protector. It works for both of you, all right? It doesn't matter what anybody says. It is your thing and it works for you. So don't be afraid to lay it on thick, play princess. But remember, at the end of the day, it is a game. It's not real life. You're not actually a damsel in distress. You're a full-fledged adult. You are in charge of your life. And if you want to play little games with your partner, go ahead and play little games with your partner. It's fine. And the knight is very much hands-on. Unlike the hermit that needs his space, the knight will do stuff with you. He will partake in activities with you. He will do other stuff. But it's just like they can also be a tad bit, not controlling, but domineering. I think domineering is the word I'm looking for. You know, they can come off a tad bit like, ugh. So don't be afraid to vocalize. Again, for most of your pairings, vocalizing your needs will help with both of these men. I know sometimes people who have innocent archetype, they don't want to vocalize something because they don't want to come off a certain type of way. But the people who actually pair with you well are people who are receptive to you vocalizing yourself, to you speaking your truth, to you saying, I'm not okay with this. And they will adjust to your needs. So vocalize it and don't be afraid to really express yourself. Again, you are the embodiment of transformation. You're transforming into this girl, that girl, that girl. The knight will appreciate that. He's going to love that. He's not going to bash you for it. So if a guy doesn't like the fact that you change your hairstyle, someone actually told me this. If a guy doesn't like the fact that you change your hairstyle and you have this archetype, guess what? He's not for you. And it's okay, because the archetypes you actually pair up with well appreciate that part of you. They appreciate your ever-changing, your ever-evolving nature. You keep them on their toes, and they like that. And they especially like the fact that you vocalize yourself and you say exactly what you want in a relationship. They would appreciate it if you did that. So that is for the innocent. Now, moving on to the charmer. The charmer is the masculine pole of this transformative archetype. And like the innocent, he too transforms, but his transform is external because he is also an adventurer and sometimes a wanderer. One of the archetypes that pairs well with the charmer archetype is the protecting mother. Protecting mother is the feminine archetype of protection, just like the knight is the masculine archetype of protection. Again, click on the eye somewhere. She is very energetic. She's comfortable with competition. She's not afraid to compete, and she will go the distance. Basically, woman Hercules or woman superhero. This is a relationship of like attracts likes. The charmer is adventurous. He is a wanderer, and he's also curious as well as transformative. She's comfortable with competition. She's comfortable with being uncomfortable, and she likes doing new stuff. So this would be the couple that are in some random place, skydiving, hiking on Everest, doing like all the like outrageous stuff in the world. That's who these two are. And the rest of us are just watching them like, why are y'all doing this? But it feeds them. It feeds both of them. It feeds her competitive nature, and it also feeds his adventurous nature. So you two pair off very well together, and it's literally a match made in heaven. All right, it's a really good match. You match each other's energy, and you push each other to really like try a variety of stuff, which most people who have charmer archetype, they like exploring, they like trying new stuff, and they like transforming. So that is one of your pairings. Your other pairing is the sage. The sage is the knowledgeable and intellectual person. And sage women and charmer men pair each other like peanut butter and jam. Like they are perfect for one another. It might come off as odd, but it works because he is a very curious person, and she is a very knowledgeable person. So it's basically like the key that fits into the keyhole. The Sage is very expressive. So she's really going to be able to express herself fully and share her knowledge. And he's just going to be like a sweet little puppy soaking everything in because he's a very curious person. She would take you on that adventure of the mind, whereas the protecting mother would take you on that physical adventure. The Sage will really take you on that adventure of the mind, feed in your curiosity and feed in your adventurous nature, which will also help you transform your transformative archetype. The Sage will be perfect for that. There's also another caveat between these two pairings but this is more so on the Sage, especially on Sage women. And I'm going to explore that once I do the pairing of the Sage and the Charmer in the Sage video. But one thing to know is Charmer men or Charmer fathers, they give birth to Sage daughters. And there's I do not like this psychoanalyst or whatever he's called. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Freud and you've heard of the Freudian cover-up, and it's just a disgusting thing. I'm just going to give you a cliff note. Basically, Freud, Oedipus concept that kids like their parents, but it was really a cover-up because some fathers were abusing their daughters. They developed Stockholm syndrome, and then he tried to cover it up as the child is attracted to the parent when that's not the case. That is not the case, okay? It is a cover-up. You can go read it into detail. Just gave you the cliff notes. It's a disgusting thing. However, there are times when a child will be attracted to some of the traits their parents present because it is familiar to them. It is their interpretation of love. And for Sage women who are raised by Charmer men, her seeing a man navigate the same way her father does is familiar to her. It's not necessarily I love it, but it's just something that reminds me of home. And I'm going to explore that more in the Sage video. This pairing, although they do fit well, there's also another layer of Charmer men give birth to Sage daughters. And actually, I don't think I'm going into detail with this, but most archetypes give birth to themselves. By that I mean king men will give birth to king boys. Queen women will give birth to queen girls. Charmer men will give birth to charmer boys. However, when it comes to the opposite gender, that switches. Okay, the king men will give birth to the innocent girl. The queen woman actually should give birth to the king men. So for her, it works. But the charmer man will give birth to a Sage woman. It switches because of how the genders are taught and socialized in our world. So that's kind of how that switch happens. But yes. And the third pairing for the charmer is the mystic. Again, click on the eye to have an in-depth video of how the mystic operates. But she's basically the embodiment of acceptance and detachment. And this, just like the innocent, this would be a relationship of opposites attract. The mystic is very cool, calm, and collected. The charmer is very vivacious, energetic, and youthful. She is the all-wise woman. He is the youthful boy. They're a pairing that does not make sense to the naked eye, but once you draw in closer, you understand why this works. A mystic woman, just like the hermit, is going to accept all the facets of the charmer, all his different transformations. If he wants to be this guy today, she will accept that. If he wants to be this other guy tomorrow, she will accept it. If he wants to be blah, 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 they are the embodiment of acceptance. And don't be afraid to really be whoever you want to be at any given minute. They don't mind it. They don't care. All right. They're going to accept it. However, just like with the hermit, there is something I need to warn you about. Usually, it does not affect people who have charmer energy because, yes, you're transformative and you're curious like the innocent, but you're also an adventurer. The innocent is not so much of an adventurer, which is why I gave that big caveat when I was talking about that archetype, but the charmer is an adventurer. And usually when these two come together and the person who has charmer archetype is out there doing their thing, they have their partner who have the mystic archetype, who is also in her safe space, in her woman cave, or in her greenhouse, doing her own thing. And once they all do their thing, they come together and it works. He gives her space without even knowing he's giving her space. So it's not going to be a big factor for you. However, maybe let's say you travel for work. In an event that you lose your job and you are home a lot, just like the innocent, you need to understand that your partner needs her me time. And she will sometimes isolate herself and go into her woman cave or her workshop or her greenhouse and do her thing. Do not disturb her. And people who have charmer archetype, because they're also adventurers, they don't see this part of the relationship when their partner is doing their own thing. It might come off as unexpected because you haven't been around a lot, because you've been traveling here and there, which is fine. Your partner accepts that about you. They have that understanding. They're really not pressed on it. But in an event your lifestyle has changed, do not turn into this clingy little kid who's holding on to dear life for their partner, because that will actually pull her away and she will fall into that detachment aspect of that archetype and basically break up. Okay, the people who have Hermit and Mystic archetype, they're very big on their space. And they're very big on the man cave and women cave. And when that is disrupted, they will break up. And if you're married, they will divorce. You will come back home and the house has been cleared out. You have no idea what happened. Do not mess with their space. They love their space. That is your one requirement. Don't mess with your partner's workspace because you want attention. Don't mess with your partner's workspace because you feel like she's not giving anything to you. Again, direct communication is the way to work with this archetype. Tell her, hey, I will really appreciate it if at 4 o'clock we do da 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 da. She'll be receptive to that. She'll go do her own thing, and at 4 o'clock on the dot, she's going to be there and give you what you need. So that is the best way to go about it. And I really felt the need to highlight this in this particular archetype of transformation, because you are the dreamers. And sometimes you can really let your imagination run wild when you're dealing with either the Hermit or the Mystic, to just be clear and concise. And they will give you that direct answer. They might be either the only archetype or the very few archetype where I would say, listen to what they say. Don't watch what they do. They're very direct and honest in their communication. However, if you just watch what they do, it might seem like they're not interested. And 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. Because if you talk to them, you know they're interested. The key identifier is, if you're in a relationship with someone who has Mystic archetype or Hermit archetype, if they're around you, they like you. If they're not around you, they don't like you. It's actually very easy. But other archetypes, and especially people who have innocent and charming archetype, who actually pair very well with this other archetype, they would tend to be in their head. They would tend to overthink things and tend to think, do they like me? Do they not like me? Am I doing something wrong? It's just cut that out. Be clear, be direct, be concise, and they will tell you the truth. I was about to end. No. One more thing. The pairing of the charmer and the mystic is also a parental type of pairing, okay? Mystic mothers tend to give birth to charmer sons. And again, this is because of how this archetype is. If you go in depth into the mystic archetype, I told you they really like their space. And even as mothers, they will give space to their offspring. And in a boy, this will allow him to go out, be adventurous, wonder about things, and after he's done partaking in any adventure or feeding his curiosity, He just comes back home, maybe smells like the outside, hops into the shower, sleeps in the bed, and repeats it. That is how a charmer archetype is made when it comes from a son who is the son of a mystic woman. So that is why if you actually have charmer archetype and you had a mother who was, obviously she was supportive and caring, but she was hands off. She's the opposite of a clingy parent. She's very more hands off. She's letting you explore, wonder, feed your curiosity, and you're able to come back home. You might find that mystic women are very familiar to you, but again, it's a sense of familiarity. It's not love. Can it turn into love? Yes, because it is an energy you're used to dealing with. However, just keep that in mind. Not every woman who has mystic archetype might be a good match for you, even if you were raised by a woman who has mystic archetype. You might just find that that archetype is very familiar to you because most of the time mystic women give birth to charmer sons because they give the offspring space to really explore their own individuality and really grow into their own person. And in a little boy is usually him wandering here and there and then coming back home. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I forgot this, but the charmer archetype and the innocent archetype can actually pair up together. And when they do, this is the quintessential puppy love, teen love story, but it tends not to last. Just like most of the time, most of us are now with our high school sweethearts or middle school sweethearts for people who did it in middle school. This is a quintessential teen love story. It's cute, it's fun, but it's also very tumultuous. So you can pair up together as an archetype. You are a match. However, you each having a more grounded archetype. Like for example, if you're a charmer boy and you have like the hermit archetype, if you're an innocent girl and then you have a sage archetype, that can really like balance it out and bring it down. But you do actually pair up together very well. Just if you have other archetypes in your top 3, meaning they're active to really balance off your childlike nature. But yes, you are actually a really good pairing together. But if you just have both of those archetypes, you don't have another one to ground it, it's going to be a match made in hell. It's going to be a roller coaster. It is going to be a roller coaster of crying, being happy, crying, being happy. Just think back to like your first relationship in high school. It's a mess. So that's basically it. I didn't want to talk about the immature charmer or the immature innocent because they tend to be very manipulative. And if you go back to the video about these two, the end of the video, I did tell you a good communicator is a greater manipulator. And sometimes we want our partner to be able to communicate with us, blah, blah, blah. But men who have charmer archetype are also the same men who would communicate with you, go to therapy, and then use therapy language against you. So be careful what you wish for, but in their mature state, they can be honest and they can be forthright. However, when they're immature, I don't even want to explore immature, innocent, and immature charmer archetype at all. I don't feel like they should be dating anyone. I feel like they should be figuring out who they are and how they want to show up before even getting in a committed relationship. So that's why I'm not even talking about that. But again, this is for mature charmer, mature innocent archetype who have accepted themselves, who are fully ingrained in who they are, who are satisfied with their transformative nature, and who just wonder what type of archetype will be a good match for them. It's these archetypes. So yes. All right. So that is it for this video. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And please feel free to visit my website. It is called kitchentableadvice.com. I have blogs, poems, art, and a bunch of whimsical stuff there. So yes, thank you so much for spending your day with me, and I see you next week. Bye.